All right, the final part of the world's best cold calling framework, stage 4, is the close. Right, so once we've gone through the intro, the problem statement, the pain exploration, right, we move into the close. This is where we're asking the prospect for some time to meet, right? We've been able to identify that they have a problem that we can help them to solve. How do we succinctly ask for the opportunity to meet with them, right? Whether that's with us, if we're a full cycle rep, or whether that's with an account executive, right? If we're a BDR or an SDR. How do we do that in a way that is confident, is succinct, but doesn't come across as overly salesy, so that we can get a high conversion rate from close requests into meetings booked? Right, so let's jump onto the computer and I'll walk you through the key elements of the close.
Okay, so the close has two components to it. So one is the element of pulling information that we've gathered from our conversation into the first part of the close. And then the second is structuring the request for a meeting, so the way that we ask that question in the form of a no-oriented question. Right, so what that looks like when you combine those two things is something like this. Right, so John, it sounds like, based on what you've told me about the current process you use to capture information on site and then report out to clients, that what we do might be able to help. Would you be against spending 20 minutes on a quick call with us later this week to learn a little bit more about how we do that? Right, so to break that out there, what we're doing is we're taking information that we're gathered during the call. It sounds like, based on what you've told me about X and Y, that we might be able to help. So this X and Y should be about specific workflows or specific challenges that you've identified within their business that your solution can help them to improve. Right? This comes from, the problem statement and from the pain exploration. And as often as possible, try to, explain or pull from the conversation and repeat it back to them in their own words. Right? So an example for Right Channel, right, one of the services that we provide could be, look, it sounds like, based on the fact that your reps are getting, on average a 4% connect rate on cold calls at the moment, that what we do might be able to help. Right? Would you be against spending 20 minutes on a quick call with us later this week to learn a little bit more about how we can do that? Okay, so pull specifics from the conversation as the first component. And then the second part is, would you be against spending 20 minutes? Now, the reason that we frame it this way is that, according to Chris Voss of Never Split the Difference fame, right, no-oriented questions remove the pressure from a prospect. Prospects feel pressured if you ask them to respond yes, right, or in an affirmative way. They feel like that leads to a trap. Prospects are much more likely to respond in the way that you want them to if that response is a no. Feels like there's less commitment, less pressure psychologically. So wherever possible, you want to frame your questions in a way that leads to them saying no being the outcome that you're after, right? Because in this situation here, would you be against, or would you be opposed, or would it be a terrible idea to spend 20 minutes? Right? So framing the question that way, it feels lower pressure. You're much more likely to get the outcome that you're after.
All right, so that brings us to the end of the series, the 4-part process behind the world's best cold calling framework. If you haven't checked out the other videos in the series, you'll be able to find those on the Sales Science website or on YouTube. And keep an eye out for tomorrow. I'll be posting a video on how to respond to the question, what is it exactly that you do, right? If you're following our 4-step process through the cold call, often you'll get to the pain exploration stage, or you'll get to the close stage, and you'll get that question from a prospect. Because remember, up until this point, we haven't been positioning what we're doing. What we've been focused on is understanding how the prospect is running their business at the moment, understanding their current situation and their current state. Everything's been focused on them. And so if you get a question from the prospect around, what is it exactly that you do? That's perfect, right? Now we've got the prospect asking us what we do. That gives us permission to now get into that level of conversation. But there's a specific way that you want to do that so as to give yourself the best chance to then close into the meeting. So tomorrow I'm going to walk you through that process. So keep an eye out for that post, and I'll see you guys then. Cheers.